This is Thursday afternoon. The wind is really picking up, and yeah, believe it or not, look how pretty it is here. And we're supposed to end up maybe getting a few inches of snow tomorrow. So we'll see how it looks tomorrow. Hello, this is Sonia from An Enthusiastic Reader. Thank you so much for joining me today to talk about my Friday reads. I've read books over the month of May and thought I would talk about some of them that would be of interest to maybe someone else. It's a beautiful day. It's going to be 90 degrees, and so we are planning a very subdued and eventful Memorial Day weekend. Some reading, of course, involved, probably some TV, and just hanging out and doing not much of anything. The first book I'd like to talk about, and the most recent book I finished, was Trust by Hernan Diaz. And I've seen a lot of very mixed reactions to this book. It's a very ambitious novel that is not a conventional narrative. So it's divided into 4 sections, and each section is written by a different person. And it's really interesting the way that it's constructed. And I'd say for the first 55% of the book, I had no idea how these narratives were actually connected. And by the time, I'm glad I was patient, because by the time I got to the 3rd section, it started to suddenly make sense, what we were dealing with here. And I don't want to talk about it too much, because I think there's some joy and pleasure in figuring it out as you go. If you liked Fates and Furies by Lauren Groff, this is a book you may enjoy, because it sets up a problem in the first half of the book and then solves the problem in the second half of the book. And that's all I will say, other than I really thought the writing was good. It really, especially the first part, was written as a very prototypical, stereotypical autobiography of the great man in American finance, someone who was so talented and able in his own way to affect the whole world's finances by him always being on top of everything. And, starting hardscrabble autobiography where it starts off where someone's very poor at the beginning and they work their way up, almost purely by the sweat of their brow and pulling up their own bootstraps and tapping into their genius. And no matter what they did, it wouldn't matter, because they were bringing so much good to the world. So that's kind of how it gets set up. And then, so as I said, that's the problem at the beginning, and then it is worked through. And I feel like it was a really ambitious novel, and I will give it points for just trying something different. And I did like the writing. Each narrative was completely different from the other, so they were very distinct. And it did tell a story. There was a line through the story. There was the arc that is the root of the story. So I gave it 4 stars because I was impatient in the first half, kind of wondering, why am I reading this, or what am I supposed to be getting out of it? And my brain's working overtime trying to make connections. And ultimately, I think it paid off, and I think it was worth reading. But a lot of people do not agree, so I'm not sure. I guess that's all I have to say about it, other than, yeah, I'm glad I read it. The next book I would like to talk about is Purple Hibiscus by Chimamanda Ngozi Adiche. And this, here's what it's about. It's a coming of age story, essentially, and also a political novel. And it's about this family where the father publishes a newspaper, and it's highly critical of governments that keep coming in and out of this particular country that they are in, Nigeria. And so So he's very political, but he's also extremely fanatically Catholic and has broken ties with his family, including his father for being a heathen. And he raises his two children in this bubble of protection and yet also just strict control. Like every minute of their day is scheduled, when their prayers will be, when their homework is. If they don't get perfect grades and aren't the first in their classes, he metes out horrible punishments on them, and he also physically assaults their mother all the time. So he does it under the guise of, I'm trying to protect you, and I'm trying to save you, and I'm trying to make you as good as you can be. And he is very revered in political circles, and I think it's even maybe kind of an open secret of how he treats his children and how he treats his wife, but no one says anything to him about it. And so he has a sister who lives in a nearby city, and she somehow convinces this father that the children should come stay with her for a week to go see this religious miracle. And it opens their eyes to a world that is not controlled, and it opens their eyes to other ways of thinking, and it allows them to see and kind of confront what's happening to them in their own family. So it was a really good book. I actually liked it better than the other novel I read by Adiche. So highly successful. I enjoyed it, and I was really feeling very deeply for these people, these characters. And also I didn't love the ending. I thought the ending, there was a turn of events that was a little bit gimmicky, I felt, but the rest of it, I just really enjoyed the deep emotion and coming of age and awareness of the world that came through in the text. All right. The next book I would like to talk about is called Life Without Children. It's a collection of short stories by Roddy Doyle, who is the Irish short story writer, novelist. And I've read several books by him in the past, many years ago, and he kind of dropped out of my life for some reason, although I really love his writing and his way of creating characters, and especially writing dialogue that feels so true to the moment. And the conceit of all of these short stories, they're all different characters, but almost all of them are middle-aged men where their children have grown and left, and they are all facing isolation in the pandemic. So all of them are in quarantine. There's a very strict quarantine in Ireland at the time, and almost all of them are first-person narratives of these men who are either dealing with traumatic memories from the past, or seeing that their marriages aren't as strong as they thought they were, or really reinforcing and strengthening their marriages because they have all this time together. And in the very first story was talking about binge watching television. So a lot of these situations are just kind of mundane, but I listened to the audiobook. He is an excellent reader of his own work, and I just felt like I was in the heads of these characters, and I felt a kinship with them because we had gone through a similar thing with our own quarantine, and just in terms of being together constantly where we didn't normally do that. And so I loved it, and it makes me want to revisit some of the collections I've missed through the years, or the novels that Doyle has written, because he's very prolific. But it was just very successful for me, and I would read a lot more of his work. My one nod to May of the Moderns is this book that I read called The Engagement by George Simenon, and it was written in 1933, and this was so good. It was kind of a noir story set in Paris of a cat and mouse situation where the police, they're trying to arrest the main character, Mr. Hire, for a murder. He's kind of being set up, but he's a very sketchy character in terms of his own past. He is a pornographer, and so it's a character study. It's very humanizing but it's very tense. And also there are some people that are trying to set him up who were involved in the actual murder and trying to pin it on him. So it's this very tense situation between all of the characters, between the police and Mr. Hire and his landlady and the girl that lives across the alleyway, and he can see into her bedroom and she can see into his. So they have all this psychological interplay between the two of them as they watch each other in various activities. And so it was great. I really enjoyed it, and it was just incredibly tense. And then the finale came, and it was also very moving and terrifying. So I would definitely like to read more of his work. The last book I would like to talk about is The Candy House by Jennifer Egan. This is a companion novel, kind of a sequel in a sense to A Visit from the Goon Squad, which I just reread in anticipation of reading this book, The Candy House. I just have to say that this book did not work on the same level as A Visit from the Goon Squad. I enjoyed the process of reading it, but I did not feel emotionally connected at all to the characters in the Candy House. Mostly my brain was in overtime trying to make mental connections between the characters and situations in the Candy House with the characters and situations in A Visit from the Goon Squad, because there is a lot of overlap and there's a lot of callback to the things that happen in Goon Squad. So I'm glad I read it, but it is not going to stick with me, and I do not have the connection. And the premise of the Candy House is mostly about all of these characters either trying to resist or embrace technology that has been invented that allows you to upload all of your memories and thoughts and everything that's happened to you from your brain into this collective consciousness that's digital. And then there are characters who are really trying to resist this and feeling like there is no authenticity in the culture anymore because of the advancement of this technology. And so it's a constant battle. And each chapter is written kind of in a different format. Some of them are in terms of like a journal. There's a whole text exchange thread. So I felt like Egan was trying to, expand on the PowerPoint presentation in A Visit from the Goon Squad, which I felt was really effective, and maybe try to do it too much in the Candy House, and it just felt forced to me, and I did not feel a warmth for the characters. I didn't particularly care what happened to them. More, I was just kind of like a voyeur watching what was happening to them, but never feeling the connection I needed to have that book stick with me as a book in my favorites category. There are a lot of books I've read that I've just read them and they've gone right out of my brain, and this is probably one of them. So it's worth reading, but I would keep expectations low, or at least my expectations were too high. Hey, what am I going to read in May? I don't know. I for sure am going to do a buddy read with Teresa, and we are going to start tackling Pat Barker's The Regeneration trilogy, which I believe the first novel is called Regeneration. These are World War I novels. I know virtually nothing about them, so I'm anxious to do that. And other than that, I would like to read some things that might be a little bit more fun and a little bit more light. So it may be more detective or mystery novels, or I don't know what for sure, but I need to keep my brain light by what I'm reading, I think, for at least for a short while, and just give myself a little reading vacation and really embrace the whole summer ethos. I did get an ARC for the new Elizabeth Strout novel that's coming out. It's called Lucy by the Sea, so it's the third in the, well, it's the fourth, but it's the third in the direct stories about Lucy Barton from My Name is Lucy Barton. And as you know, that is one of my all-time favorite books, My Name is Lucy Barton. I really enjoyed O. William, and now we're going to do Pandemic with Lucy in Lucy by the Sea. That doesn't come out until September, so I think I will wait for a while to read that a little closer to the publication date. But, I'm highly anticipating how excited I am to get back into that universe. And other than that, yeah, I just don't know what I'm going to read. So I guess you'll have to tune in and see what I come up with. I was tagged in a tag I need to do, and I like the whole English novel. What are your top 5 English novels? So I would like to do a video about that. And then later on in the summer, I would like to do a video about what are my highly anticipated fall reads, all the books that are coming out in the fall that I'm excited about. So for now, I think I will just let you go, and thank you so much for watching and being here with me, and have a great Memorial Day weekend if you're here in the United States. And if you're not, then have a great weekend anyway. On that happy note, I will talk to you in the next video. Bye.